On Saturday, May 24th, we saw the return to the ring of Josh Taylor, the Tartan Tornado. He had been out of the ring for a little bit, and after taking his rest, he decided that he'd come back and take on Essuman, a fighter from the UK that is considered local grade and talent, not necessarily world class. And they have had a history of working together in the gym many years ago, but now that it was for the real stakes, these men faced one another, and the outcome was surprising and upset. Let's talk about what happened on this card. Sometimes when fighters take a little extra time away from the ring, a lot of good can be done. Bodies can heal, the mind can get clear, and you come back replenished, refreshed, and ready to take on new challenges. Such was the case with Josh Taylor taking on Essuman when he thought that he was coming back to boxing in a new weight division, finally, at welterweight, though he probably should have jumped up to welterweight a couple of years back. It turned out that his timing was all wrong, as he ended up in a fight with Essuman that he didn't expect. It was the type of fight where initially Taylor opened up and he went after Essuman because of their experience in the past. I would guess that he thought that he could put pressure on the gentleman early and take the fight out of him. But what happened was the Tartan Tornado, Taylor, ran out of gas himself after round 3. And the machine, Essuman, had just begun to get going. to the degree that he started to sweep the middle rounds. And I thought that maybe Taylor would be using this as an opportunity to relax himself and get back into the mix of things. But that never happened. There were swing rounds, but there were a lot of close rounds where Echo got favor simply because he was working more. And Taylor began to lay on the ropes and seemingly lost a lot of that fire that initially kicked the fight off. When asked if what's next for Josh Taylor, Carl Frampton offered that he said this guy was the elite of the elite. He was a superstar, and it's clear he's not the fighter that he once was. When asked if he thought that Taylor might fight again after this loss, it depends on what his dreams and ambitions are. I think it was to become a two-weight world champion, but on a performance like that, I don't think it's possible. You see, it all began to go downhill for Taylor after he had become the undisputed champion at junior welterweight with a majority decision victory in October of 2019 against Regis Prograis. After that, in September of 2020, he took on Apinan Kongsong, where he got a KO victory in that fight. And then the following year, in May of 2021, he took on Jose Carlos Ramirez, where he finally unified for undisputed. I meant to say that when he beat Prograis in October of 2019, he became a unified champion. The whole thing after that was Taylor was feeling himself. He was really thinking that as he was going forward with his career, that he could write his own ticket. But activity is key, and it was inactivity that saw him have the problems that he ended up with. And so, as he became less active, he began to enjoy the spoils of the sport outside of the ring, and he had issues. And so by the time he was about to go in and face the likes of Jack Catterall in February of 2022, a split decision win in which Catterall dropped him and basically won a boxing match against Taylor. It was a very controversial decision, and he mulled over going up to welterweight at that time, but he didn't pull the trigger. In the meantime, we had the likes of Samuel Antwi taking on Echo. He won a unanimous decision in September of 2022, and he followed that up with a unanimous decision loss to Harry Scarf, who has since gone on to get stopped. Owen Cooper was a fighter that he beat in July of 2024, and by November of 2024, a majority decision over Ben Vaughn. But he hadn't turned anyone's head with his performance. But after this performance against Taylor, he has given us something different to think about. And so now, presently, Echo's record happens to be 22-1 with 8 KOs. And he is now the WBO global champion, which means that he should get a title shot possibly by the end of the year if some other finagling works aren't brought about, it will give him an opportunity to try to fight for a world title. In the meantime, Taylor, on the other hand, his record drops to 19-3 with 13 KOs. And it's the way he has lost. His 3 defeats have been in succession, beginning with a June 2023 unanimous decision loss to Teofimo Lopez. Lopez was the first to indicate by performance that Taylor may finally be a little bit long in the tooth. And that was followed up finally with a rematch in 2024, May, with Jack Catterall. And again, a unanimous decision loss to Catterall in a fight where it was thought that Taylor really didn't want to face Catterall again because Catterall may have had his number. It turned out to be true. Though the second fight was a lot closer than the first one, Josh Taylor seemingly just didn't have it anymore. But now there's a new man on the block. And that new man is Essuman, the engine. Will he be able to persevere and pursue his dreams, becoming a welterweight titleist? Wow, that's something to think about. For a man whom many considered a sparring partner and not necessarily world class. But when you've defeated the likes of Jack Catterall, albeit even being older than Catterall by 2 years at 36, is something to be said about that. Will Josh Taylor, will Josh Taylor decide to continue and pursue his dreams at welterweight? It remains to be seen, because he has looked bad 3 fights in a row. But that can be turned around with proper motivation and rededication. But has he been jaded? Has he gotten lazy? Is he not inspired anymore? It remains to be seen. So as we look ahead and we think about the fighters who are campaigning at welterweight, there are a couple of names that may not necessarily be there if he decides to hang around. And then there's an opportunity against someone like Jose Carlos Ramirez, who just dropped a decision against Devin Haney earlier this month in that Fatal Fury card out of New York. Maybe Jack, I mistakenly say Jack instead of Josh. Josh would like to pursue a rematch with Ramirez. That would be an opportunity for redemption for both men. I believe that he will fight again. He's just got to find his way. But in the meantime, let's see what happens with Echo, because he's in a position to make some noise. And that's always exciting. But what do you think? This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know your thoughts about what should be next for Essuman. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.